Wednesday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be tracking a major winter storm bringing continuous heavy snow and more severe weather today through this week, then an Arctic plunge from late January through early February of 2023, and we're also tracking multiple winter storms with snowstorms, ice storms, and severe weather possible through the end of January into early February in this video. Looking back, I did want to show you here this tropical cyclone Chinesso is actually approaching Madagascar here in the Indian Ocean. You can see on the infrared imagery, definitely a very powerful tropical cyclone. And this will be approaching the western side of the island of Madagascar here in southeastern Africa. So definitely seeing some strong winds and lots of flooding rains across those areas as we head through the next couple of days. But closer to home, the past 24 hours, we did lay out a nice swath of heavy snow across eastern New Mexico, through portions of the panhandle of Texas into western and central Oklahoma. In fact, a closer inspection of this, we did see around 6 inches of snow near and south of the Amarillo area down toward Lubbock and Midland, Texas, and that did spread out farther east into Oklahoma here. But also the severe weather side yesterday as well. We had 14 tornado reports. I do think this number may rise with the surveys here later on today. 12 wind reports, and also for a total of 26 severe weather reports across coastal Texas near the Houston area and across southern portions of Louisiana and southern Mississippi from yesterday. But if you guys are with me on the video, hit the subscribe button down below and the like button. It's that thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to get all of this weather information out to more and more people, and to get daily weather forecast updates on this channel. I do cover Canada, the United States, and the tropics. So hit the subscribe button down below and the like button here to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. But like I was saying, this system will continue propagating up across the Ohio Valley today, bringing that cold front farther east across the Carolinas, Virginia, Georgia, and North Florida, wreaking havoc with more severe weather across those areas. Meanwhile, to the northwest side of this low, we are actually seeing heavier snow wrapping in around the Chicagoland area, up toward Green Bay, Milwaukee, and much of the Great Lakes region throughout the day today. But looking first here at the most important aspect of this storm, it's the severe weather. We have a slight risk of severe weather across the eastern Carolinas, getting into south central Georgia and northern Florida today. This does include Myrtle Beach, Charleston, South Carolina, getting down into portions of Savannah, Georgia, and portions of northern Florida near the Tallahassee region. Do want to be on high alert today. We do have a 2 to 5% shading here for tornadoes from the eastern Carolinas down into south central Georgia and North Florida through today. Also that 5 to 15% shading of damaging winds over 60 miles per hour, and then most of these areas will see less than a 5% chance of hail. It's mainly going to be the tornado and damaging wind threat as we go through the day today. So tracking this around the noon time frame, we have that squall line continuing to make its way eastward across the Carolinas, getting into southern Georgia and northwestern Florida through the noon time frame, bringing some damaging winds and embedded tornadoes. So want to be on high alert. Then as we go through the 6 p.m. hour, through the dinner time frame, and early on this evening, that squall line will approach the coastal regions of the Carolinas in toward Savannah, Georgia here, up toward Myrtle Beach, Charleston, South Carolina, and the Outer Banks of North Carolina as well. And then that will stretch farther south into northern Florida. And then this will move off the east coast into the very early morning hours on Thursday, January 26th, tomorrow around 3 a.m., putting an end to a multi-day severe weather outbreak across the deep south. Just to remind you guys what a tornado watch and warning is, a tornado watch means tornadoes are possible. Be prepared. The conditions are favorable for the development of tornadoes. But tornado warning means tornado is imminent. It's expected. Seek shelter, especially in the most interior room of your home, especially if you have a basement. That's what you need to do when you see tornado warnings. Also here, lightning is hotter than the surface of the sun and can reach temperatures to around 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So when thunder roars, go indoors, even if you have a severe thunderstorm or not. Definitely some very dangerous weather anytime you have thunderstorms outside. But we're also tracking the winter side of this system as well, with those winter weather alerts stretching from Oklahoma all the way up through Missouri, Illinois, getting in through the Ohio Valley and much of the Northeast. In these purple shaded colors, including the Chicago area, getting up here towards portions of Pittsburgh, we're talking about those winter weather advisories. But in the pink shaded colors near St. Louis, getting into downstate Missouri, Illinois, toward the Indianapolis region, on up toward Detroit here, and then a secondary area up here of pink into the Northeast. Those are winter storm warnings where the more significant snow will be flying. We have that cold air wrapping around this system on the northwestern side. There's no lack of cold air with this system, and that's going to be dropping some heavier snow across portions of the Ohio Valley into the Great Lakes here, and even a swath of snow across the Chicagoland area through that noon time frame, and that will be spreading across portions of upstate New York, getting into central PA here toward the noon time frame. That will continue into the upper Great Lakes, finally moving into southern Ontario and Quebec, Canada, up toward the Toronto area, Montreal later on this afternoon and this evening. And then some of that snow will be spreading up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and western portions of Massachusetts this evening. That will continue through the overnight hours. And then by the time we get into 6 a.m. on Thursday tomorrow, all of that snow will be exiting northern Maine into eastern Canada, and we'll say goodbye to that storm system. But looking at the total snowfall accumulation from now through Thursday night here tomorrow night, we could see a solid swath of several inches of snow from southern Missouri on up through portions of Indiana, western Ohio, getting up toward Detroit, and then a secondary area of some heavier snow up here, especially into central Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and portions of Maine as well. Looking at this with a closer view across the Ohio Valley and the western Great Lakes, we could be talking about 4 or 5 inches of snow for totals here into the Chicago area. Getting south of Chicago towards Champaign or Urbana, Illinois, we could be talking about half a foot. 8 or 9 inches is likely down here toward Indianapolis. We could be talking about a solid 6 inches in Detroit, and then getting down into Columbus, Ohio, we could be talking about 5 to 6 inches there. Then on up across the Northeast, now through Thursday night, we could be talking about a couple inches here into Pittsburgh. We could be talking about some heavier snow into upstate New York around the Watertown, Buffalo areas, getting 6 to 12 inches of snow. And then a solid foot of snow is likely on up here across central and northern portions of Maine through Thursday night. So definitely getting those snow blowers and shovels ready across many of these areas through the next few days. And the rain side of this system won't be lacking either. We're going to be seeing lots of heavy rain across the southeast with those severe thunderstorms out there. Some flooding rains are possible across the Carolinas, getting up into West Virginia, portions of Kentucky, and farther south into northern Florida. Heavy rainfall over an inch is likely across many of these areas in those darker blues and pink shaded colors going through Thursday night. Then as we head in towards this weekend, we're going to track another fast-moving storm system. This is what we call an Alberta Clipper system. These usually move pretty quick, and they originate across Alberta, Canada. So we're going to start to see that on Friday here. We're going to see a traffic zone with the low-pressure system developing on up into Alberta, Canada, and moving quickly through that jet stream here, just like in traffic. It's going to be moving very quickly down the highway going into this weekend. So looking here on Friday, January 27th, this is mid-afternoon at 3 o'clock. We have that snow flying with that Alberta Clipper up here into portions of Montana, Idaho, and western portions of Wyoming. That will quickly traverse across the southern Dakota regions, getting into northern Nebraska, northern portions of Iowa, and southern Minnesota into Saturday morning around 6 o'clock. And then that will swing across portions of the western Great Lakes into the Milwaukee area, Green Bay, perhaps down into northern Illinois, eastern Iowa, and then stretching over into lower Michigan by 6 o'clock on Saturday night. And that will continue to move eastward into the eastern Great Lakes and into portions of upstate New York as we head into Sunday, January 29th around the 6 o'clock time frame. Heavier rains will be felt farther south across the lower Mississippi Valley region, across portions of Memphis, down into Jackson, Mississippi, and portions of the Baton Rouge region into Louisiana on Sunday morning. So looking at potential snowfall amounts from Friday the 27th through Sunday the 29th toward the very last weekend of January, we're going to see a solid stripe, potentially of over 6 inches of snow from South Dakota into northeastern Nebraska, northern Iowa, and perhaps right along the Illinois-Wisconsin state line. Looking at this closer, there could be some winters out here with double-digit snows, 10 to 12 inches across southeastern South Dakota into northeastern portions of Nebraska, and then a solid 6 to 8 inches across northern Iowa. Getting farther east, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, a solid 5 to 8 inches is definitely possible here, going in towards that Saturday into Sunday time frame, and then that will stretch farther east on Sunday, including some of these areas into southern portions of Michigan as well, getting in toward the Detroit region with a few more inches to the east there going into Sunday morning. Then thereafter, it is all about the cold, guys. We're going into a deep freeze going into late January and especially turning the page to early February. So this goes all the way through February 3rd, and you definitely see these darker blues showing up across the northern plains and upper Midwest and really much of the western side of the country. We're going to dampen this ridge farther southeast across the United States into Florida and the immediate southeast. And that will make way for very cold temperatures. In fact, the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting a high probability of hazardous cold temperatures across portions of eastern Montana through the Dakotas, Minnesota, western Iowa, getting down into Nebraska and Kansas here, and even that moderate type of probability getting as far south as the Red River here in Texas and the mid-Mississippi Valley as well. So definitely a very cold spell coming up going into early February. And you can see all that cold air farther to the north, across Siberia, getting into the Arctics here in northern Canada. That is waiting to spill south, and it will in a big way as we go in towards the next couple of weeks. Looking at the snow depth going in towards the end of the month, we're going to have heavy snow on the ground across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and really much of southern Canada here, and that is going to enhance a lot of this colder air. So as this moves farther south across that snowpack, you can definitely bet that our potential high temperatures going into Monday, January 30th, will be below zero. We could be even talking about double digits below zero for high temperatures Monday afternoon, next Monday across southern Canada, much of the Dakota regions here, getting into portions of Minnesota, Montana, and Wyoming. And then factoring in that wind chill, yeah, we could be seeing wind chill watches and warnings up here across southern Canada and the northern United States with these type of wind chills getting into dangerous levels, 25 to 35 degrees below zero on Monday, January 30th. It also will come with an active period of weather going through that 30th through the third time here in February. Some rainfall will be coming back, I do think, across California and the Mountain West, but a lot of this across the eastern two-thirds of the country could be falling as snow with that colder air filtering in farther south and east. In fact, as we go into early next week with that transition from the milder air we've been seeing of late to the very cold, true Arctic air pushing farther south out of Canada, we're going to see that transition with a massive dip in the jet stream with a strong positively tilted trough digging in across California and the Southwest on Monday. That will traverse its way eastward on Tuesday and into Wednesday on February 1st, moving in across the north central United States. And this is going to be pretty concerning for another big winter storm across the middle of the country, and maybe even some severe weather on the southeastern side of this with that very potent mid-level jet screaming in out of the southwest here. So looking at that low as we go into Monday, January 30th, that could be developing around the central Rockies across portions of northern and central Colorado, snowfall on the backside across those ski resorts, maybe some heavier rain into southern California near the Los Angeles region. And then as we go into Tuesday, the very end of the month, on Tuesday, January 31st, we could be spreading some heavier snow into places that haven't seen much this year across Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, stretching over here into southern Michigan. Does include Milwaukee, Chicago, Rockford, Illinois, and then getting farther east toward Detroit. More of an ice storm type of setup across central and southern Illinois, getting in toward the Indianapolis region, Peoria into Champaign-Urbana, and then heavier rain, maybe some severe weather farther south across the Tennessee Valley here into the Carolinas and Georgia on Tuesday, and that will spread farther east. But with that cold air moving farther south, we'll transition a lot of this more to snow across the portions of Kentucky, downstate Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and then more of that cold air will be moving farther south into Tennessee Wednesday night with maybe an icy setup there with more severe weather to the southeast by midweek. So the potential snowfall next week is there. Another significant swath of heavy snow across somewhere here into the Missouri Valley, into portions of Illinois, getting into the Great Lakes here is there, and definitely some heavy rainfall is on the way as well on that southeastern side of that low pressure system next week. So we'll be keeping an eye on the storm track, its intensity here, and how much moisture we have to work with to determine the rainfall and snowfall amounts with this system in the coming days. But with this system as well, on its backside, we'll see more cold air filtering farther south again, going straight through that full week here in February through February 7th. Again, another punch of cold air moving farther south, and this time this could move farther south into southern portions of the United States toward the Red River here in Texas and portions of the lower Mississippi Valley as well, going towards that second week in February. Also does look active as well, especially up here across the Pacific Northwest, through the middle of the country and the eastern 2/3 of the country here as well across the East Coast. That could be setting up that nor'easter potential, especially into the second week in February. I do see the potential for a subtropical jet somewhere across the southern United States and then moving up to the northeast across the East Coast sometime during that second week in February. And that could develop a low pressure system farther south with that cold air moving farther south. And that would move up the East Coast with that heavier snow potential across portions of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and much of the Northeast, potentially even including that I-95 corridor that has been lacking in snowfall this season as we get into the second week in February. So to recap my weather forecast, a major winter storm is on the move with heavy snow and more severe weather through today and late this week. An Arctic plunge is coming from late January through early February of 2023 with well below average temperatures, and then multiple winter storms are on the way with snowstorms, ice storms, and severe weather potential into the first and second week in February. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you liked the video, press the thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. A great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video.